And we are live. So welcome to Ask Karen. This is where my members share with you a little bit about what they do, who they help, etc. And then the idea is that it's hopefully they might have the same question that you guys might have out there with relating to how to grow your audience or build your business using social media or more attraction marketing methods. So today's guest. So, Haider, if you'd like to share with the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and share a bit of your story, please.
Yeah, hello. My name's Haider. I am a energy coach. And the question I get often asked, well, what does that mean? And it means that I work with energy, not just physical energy, because that's our default kind of mode. We go, energy means like physical, right? We're energetic. We have like high energy in the physical sense, and actually it's not. It's around it's around emotional energy, etherical energy, and the fact that we are energetic beings living in a human body, meaning we have an electromagnetic field, and how we cultivate and use our energy, our electromagnetic field, to live a life of joy and happiness and bliss and abundance.
Fantastic.
So it's tuning our energy to call in those wonderful experiences that create that.
Yeah. And it's funny that you just mentioned there, like in the beginning, is a lot of people, who maybe haven't sort of been introduced to the, as I call it, the woo-woo side of stuff, which I actually don't like the word, but for a lot of people who haven't been introduced, it seems woo-woo, whereas, the way I see it, it's all woo-woo, but dressed up as mental and physical, right? So a lot of people's perceptions of, like you say, energy, they just see it as, how much energy they have when they wake up, or if they're feeling tired, that means they're lacking in energy. So what you just said there, could you just sort of expand a little bit on for those who don't quite understand that side of things?
So actually, science is actually bridging that gap, right? And let's use your word woohoo, which I don't like either, because it's becoming more mainstream. And science, and especially quantum physics, is bridging the gap between the understanding of the intellectual and the etherical, right? The universal law, and how we access universal energy to cultivate and create the lives that we dream of. And quantum physics is our bridge to that. So in answer to your question around how do we get more people to understand how we cultivate our energy from feeling physically tired and having low energy, one of the root causes of feeling physically tired and having low energy is your emotional energy, right? What's going on in your life that's causing this? Now, once we get to the root, because the physical is just a manifestation of the emotional, right? Fact. And again, science and medicine is kind of proving that as well. So once we get to the root cause of what's causing your emotional energetic drain, let's call it that way, then we can make foundational shifts, and shifts that are permanent, right? They're permanent shifts, because we've done that. We're going deep into the emotional element. It's a journey of healing. It's very much a healing journey, right? Because as human beings, we've all suffered trauma, and we've experienced pain and suffering, and we kind of release that energy that we're holding on to, and then we start experiencing greater physical energy, more emotional energy, which translates into more happiness and joy and love. Make sense?
Absolutely. And hopefully, I think you're right. I do believe that slowly it's science, and it is all meeting up. They're finally understanding. And I noticed something fairly recently. Something must have happened, and forgive me, it might have been a big thing. I don't have a TV, so I'm a little bit out of what is going on. But I noticed something the other day that when you said about energy, it's all how you fit. It's emotional energy. The link with, I think it was that they were talking about depression, and that they finally, or the Western powers that be or the doctors have finally realised that actually they got it wrong, and that depression, finally, that depression had no link to the serotonin levels. So that it sounded like they're finally understanding there's a little bit more complex than purely, if you're depressed, it means your chemical levels are out of balance and you're not getting enough serotonin, which indicated to me that maybe they're starting to have this more of an understanding that it is about their emotional energy is linked with that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, and the journey that I take people on, and the journey that I advocate, and the modality that I advocate is very simple, right? So you drop people from their heads into their hearts, because everything, especially in the 20th century, 21st century, is intellectualized, right? Everything is let's get a theory out there, let's prove it, let's back it up with the science, and let's get people to believe in the intellectualization of what we're saying.
Yeah.
And actually, in the spiritual world and in the energetic world, we don't use our mind to become attached to these mental theories, right? I call them programming. It's just another program.
Yeah.
And look, there's great value in these programs, and science has taught us so much. So I'm not knocking science. I'm saying science plays an amazing and important function in our lives. Absolutely. And there's another element that's been ignored for centuries, right? Millennia, and that's our heart. And our heart is our biggest, best, most friendliest guide we've got. So my journey is to drop people from their head into their heart.
Brilliant. And have you noticed a change? Have you noticed a sort of, I don't want to call it a cultural change, just to sort of, have you noticed a shift in the last, since the madness has been upon us, I suppose, because I've noticed a shift even in the, it's interesting you say that about the mind and the heart. And I realise I've got it so wrong for years, because even in the self-development arena, they were still talking about thoughts. It's all about thinking. It's all about the mind, ego. Yeah. So even in that arena where we thought they were getting involved in quantum physics, we thought they were trying to solve that kind of thing, but they were still getting it wrong. And it was all thoughts become things, think, still ego.
Yeah.
So have you noticed a shift in the last couple of years that finally people are starting to get it, that it's got to come from the heart?
Yeah, look, I have, right? And I was even like, I was watching an episode of Young Sheldon with my son the other day, right? I've got a 10-year-old son. He suddenly got into Young Sheldon, and in this program, and I don't know how old when this program was made. I think it was made about 5 or 6 years ago, right? Maybe even longer. They started talking about energy, but in a spiritual way, right? And I thought, there you have it, right? It's actually everywhere, but it's kind of in snippets, and I think it's becoming more mainstream, right? It absolutely is, especially in my world, right? I'm in the personal development, personal growth, spiritual world. So everyone I encounter is open to this, and more people are open to this, because they're finally understanding, like you said, there is a higher power. There's, you could call it source energy, you can call it cosmic law, you can call it, God, if that's what you believe in, but there's a universal power, universal intelligence that we can all tap into. And yes, it is becoming more mainstream, although it's still a tiny percentage, right?
Yeah. Because still woo-woo to some, but
yeah, because the programming is so, and when I talk about programming, I think the things that we've learned and been passed down to us, mainstream society, the matrix, as I call it, still has a strong kind of energy behind it. And it's changing. It's definitely changing. The consciousness of the world is changing.
Brilliant. Yeah. So and I say to so many that I feel blessed that my TV broke 18 months ago, because it was the best thing I ever did, getting and then removing all the TVs from the from the house,
Yeah.
because the fear that's being driven, it ain't necessarily so. When we look around,
Yeah.
I do believe that on the face of it, things might be going down one way, but people are evolving, and it's people like you. So for you, with your coaching, so you're helping people, I presume you're there to guide them through this process. Is that what you're there to do?
Yes. So I have like 3 main products actually. So the first product is something I call conscious language, and it's how we speak to the people in our lives, in our relationships, our work, family, friends, colleagues, and the most important part, the internal dialogue, because the internal dialogue is constant, right?
Yeah.
And one of the ways of waking up from our slumber, from our sleep, and evolving into consciousness is understanding what words are we using in the way we speak to ourselves. And most of those words, and there's been a study done on this, I think Tony Robbins, everyone knows Tony Robbins in the personal development world. He did a study on it and said that I think it was like 66% of the words we use are negative, right? They describe negative emotions, negative feelings, negative thoughts. So I teach something called conscious language, where we get to shift our language, right? Because our words have vibration. They have a vibration.
Yeah.
And positive words. Exactly. That's one of the things I teach, and it's a really beautiful course where you can quickly make these shifts, and you start noticing the difference straight away. First, you become aware of what words am I actually using? Because that's the first step. Actually become self-aware, right? And then you go, okay, I'm going to choose if you do choose to use more positive words, right? Which then impact your feelings. So now suddenly you're feeling more positive, more happy, more accepting of your reality.
There it is. It is.
Yeah.
Rather than resisting, rather than fighting it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a beautiful, simple shift to make, right? You just need to be shown how, and you need to become aware of what language you're currently using. And trust me, most people were at the start of this journey are using words that are not necessarily serving them, and they can use a better, more positive word to replace the word.
I'm sure I still do, but you're so right. It's awareness, isn't it? It is step one.
Yeah, and we all do it, right? And it's like I'll use this analogy. It's like going to the gym. When you go to the gym, you're not going to start lifting like the heaviest 200. You're not going to start benching 200 pounds, right? 200 kilos. It's a practice, and personal development is a practice. Conscious language is a practice. So you start using words, and I teach you the words that kind of upgrade your language to start shifting your state, right? Meaning more happiness, more love, more joy, more abundance.
Wonderful. So it's so empowering for people, because then it's them realizing that so many people think that life is such a battle, and that they give their power away. So this is actually really for anybody out there that is that maybe has been struggling, maybe is slightly aware that things are a bit negative, to have that knowledge that it doesn't have to continue that way, and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. But like you say, we just live in this instant gratification era, don't we? We want it now. I mean, obviously, I'd rather have it now. I'd rather take a tablet and make everything be in the Matrix. You mentioned the Matrix earlier. I want one of those things. I can just download anything of the negative programming that I've got caught up with and start afresh. But unfortunately, I mean, maybe there is a way. We don't know it yet. Who knows? But most things, like you say, I come from the fitness world. So yes, that analogy I love, and people miss that. Yeah, you're not going to lose weight in the first workout. It takes time, and it will take. We're never going to learn something, boom, and everything changes overnight. So what else do you offer, and who do you offer it to? Who's your sort of target audience?
So my target also. Okay, let me talk about what.
Sorry.
So my second creation, which I'm actually creating now, is like a 6-month container. I call it. It's like a mastermind, right? I just finished one. Now I'm creating a new one. And in that container, it's over 6 months, and we do deep transformational identity change, right? So we take you from where you are right now, and most people on their journey right now, or the people that I certainly coach, they are impacted by their self-sabotage, by their limiting beliefs, heavily in their programming and conditioning around how they live their life, the choices they make, how they behave, what they think, what they feel, right? So my container teaches deep level identity change, and we go deep into your energetic structure. Now we're back to energy, right? Because we all have an energetic structure, and that structure dictates how we think and behave and how we feel, meaning what are we creating in our lives, right? Because how we think, how we feel, the choices we make means our end result is how we live in our life, right? Are we living a life of joy and happiness and abundance? Are we following our dreams? And most people aren't. So I go deep to the heart of the structure of your energy, understand what your beliefs are, understand what you really think about yourself. And this is a beautiful thing about my container, Karen, is that what people think they're focused on, they're not. What people think is happening in their lives is actually not what's happening in their lives. And when you go deep to the structure, so we're opening up the awareness of actually, this is what's going on with my energy. And we get to shift that, right? We get to shift that, create a new energetic structure, go to the core. And we do that over this container. Now that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is intuition. I teach intuition, and I get people to become highly intuitive, which is so much fun, right? Because you start calling this universal intelligence, this universal information, and the information you receive is so accurate. And I often have people say to me, "It's like you're in my head," or have you got cameras in my house?
But we've been conditioned to not trust that intuition.
Exactly, right? Exactly that. And I get people to practice it, and then they start using their intuition to make decisions in their lives, right? So for
Wonderful.
me, like I was like, okay, do I want to go and Karen's show today? Intuition solve. It's like, yes, do it. It's going to be fun. You're going to, get some good kind of energy flowing, and go and do it, right? So I call the intuition the voice of your soul, right? And the soul is here to guide you in your highest interest and highest good. It will never take you down a path where it's not in your highest good. And once we know how to access our soul and access the voice of our soul, then we're going to start creating stuff that we really want, right?
Yeah.
So that's my 6-month container, and it's an amazing container. And that's, like I said, this is my third one, and the women, and it's mainly women that I coach actually, because they're way more open to this to this stuff.
I think the guys are starting to. I like to see. Yeah, I've always thought it's more women.
Yeah.
Maybe we were the witches, weren't we? We were.
And see, that's interesting, because witches in the conventional programming sense is something bad, right? It was like something evil, something unknown, something nasty. But actually, a witch is powerful. She's strong. She's so intuitive, right? She's connected to a higher power. She's not conjuring evil spells. She's actually conjuring good to the world, right, through her consciousness. Witches were highly intuitive, right? And they got burned at the stake in the Middle Ages, because they were intuitive, right? They weren't following the patriarchal men who intellectualized everything. They were following their hearts. Their third eye, their third chakra was fully activated. And that's why women are the most powerful people on this planet, because they are life force energy. They are way more intuitive, and they've got way more access to universal intelligence than the men have. I'm not saying men don't, we do, but because of the way we're built,
the conditioning, probably the ancestral, almost generational.
Well, yeah, it's hormonal, it's chemical, it's under. Yeah, we're going really deep now talking about energy.
Sorry.
It's great.
I said it would be 15 minutes, but I love it when I get people on that are like, this is great. This is great stuff, and this is what's going to transform people. So sorry, I've interrupted again. What's your
no, that's fine. So I was just saying, so women are way more open to this, and they see results way more quickly. Again, I mean, that's a generalization, right? Because when I think about my own journey, because I was so ready to make my change, I quickly embodied everything I learned. So I became highly intuitive very quickly, and that's because I was, further along in my journey when I kind of learned about this stuff. So it's not to say men can't do it. Of course they can. And I coach men as well, one-on-one. So that's my third option, one-on-one coaching and mentoring.
Right.
but yeah, so going back to my masterminds, my last 2 masterminds have been women, and we've transformed lives. It was a journey together, and their lives are very different. And you'll see the testimonials on my website that
Fantastic. So anybody who likes the idea of that, there you go. The website's there, soulfulawakening.com. And I see that as that's the work. We've overcome again, again, I suppose from all the conditioning we've all received is, man, it's so much easier than I thought. when you get to it, it's like, all that thinking is exhausting, right? All that trying to control everything.
Yeah.
Man, it's exhausting. When you're a little bit more in tune, man, take the easy route.
Well, that's it, right? And this is what we teach. This is what like people like you who've experienced that change starting to get that, right? Now here's the interesting thing about that.
I've got it wrong. I've had it wrong for so long. Seriously, this is quite new for me.
Yes, I don't like using the word wrong, Karen. I think the journey's the journey, and the journey's never wrong.
Yeah,
right?
Fair comment.
Because your experiences have led you to this.
Very true.
Right, and without living your experiences, without living your experiences, right, you wouldn't be here where you are now in terms of your consciousness and what you know.
Yeah.
And we all need, and that's what we've come here for. And now I'm talking real spiritual stuff. I believe that as human beings, we've come here to experience the stuff that we go through, right?
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Exactly. And it's embracing that. And again, as we develop our consciousness and understand how universal energy works, we kind of understand what actually all this stuff that I've experienced, all the pain and the suffering and the trauma and the anxiety and the fear that I've experienced was part of it, was an essential part of it, and is an essential part of it. And I've come to experience this, right? And for me, certainly in my own story, I've come to experience it and come to transcend it, meaning release it, right? And live from a higher state of consciousness.
Wow. So there you go. And that is it's a, don't want to say, it's a weird, there is a conundrum there. There's a sort of, yes, you're right, without some of the, we are all trying to avoid pain. It is a human response mechanism, whatever it is, to run away from pain. We want to run away from it. But yeah, you're so right. It's weird when we look back. I mean, obviously nobody likes to experience pain when they're going through it. But when you do come out of it and look back and think, you're actually absolutely right. I wouldn't change any of it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't change any of it. And that I think is the key, isn't it? It is that acceptance. It is what it is.
There you go, the breath, right? Did you see what you did there? It's the breath. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's all okay. Yeah. It's all okay. Rather than fighting it or shoving it down, or it is that accept it. It's life, isn't it?
Exactly that. And the acceptance part, there's two things I want to say about acceptance. Firstly, it's the acceptance part that we most resist, right? Meaning that we want things to be different, and energetically, we don't accept. We're like, oh, this is not happening. This can't be happening. I'm just going to suppress, repress, resist it all, right? And that's what keeps you stuck, right? That's what keeps you contracted. Because even when you resist stuff, your body actually contracts. There's a contraction, physically, emotionally, energetic. There's a contraction, and that's what I certainly teach is to get you to fully accept all the things that are happening for you, right? And that's another reframing of what happened in our lives. Most people are, this is happening to me. I say, well, no, this is happening for you, and understand why is this happening for you, right? So acceptance is about, fully acceptance and being expansive about it. Right. And then once we fully accept it, we can surrender and let it go, right? And there's this big thing in the spiritual world about surrender and letting go, right? And some people get confused. What does that actually mean? Well, actually, it means fully accepting. And I'll give you an example. So recently, my mum passed away like 3 months ago in March, 4 months ago. in March, right? And for me, the journey for the last few months has been, okay, this is fully accepting that she's no longer here, right? Fully accepting that I'm in grief. I'm not gonna swear there. I'm sad, right? I'm in pain. There's a level of sadness on my chest, and now I could resist that and go, okay, no, it's too painful for my heart.
Yeah.
Or I can go deeper into that and say, you know what, I'm gonna open and feel expansive, and I'm gonna let my heart feel what it needs to feel, right? And I'm gonna let the tears flow. I'm gonna let the sadness flow. I'm gonna let the anger come up, right? Because there was a lot of repressed anger around this, especially around the circumstances, how she left our realm. And I've fully gone into that, right? So that's the level of acceptance I'm talking about. Is to fully go into what you're experiencing in your life.
Yeah, well, we're taught not to, aren't we? You know,
Exactly.
you go to and truly, I'm sorry to hear that. I lost my father is actually he's here with me, but I resisted a lot of that. He passed last year, and you know, us Brits, you know, we're taught to go to the funeral and we're suppressing. It's like we're trying not to cry, aren't we? We're sat there and everything is resistance. Where we look at some other cultures and they just let it go. There's no fear, there's no shame about it. You know, of course you're going to be upset. And they let it out, which I've always thought, well, that's so much more healthy.
It is.
And I'm sat there and I'm
because
not to cry because it's almost like shameful.
Exactly. So you're right on two fronts, right? So the first front is yes, as a culture, especially as a Western culture, and especially as a man, actually, I've been taught not to cry, right? And as a culture in a whole, like you say, we've been taught to get on with it and get over it, right? Which is suppression and repression of the sadness, right?
Because that was my saying, deal with it.
Deal with it, right?
I'm sorry.
But that's just the product of our conditioning, right? That's the product, right? Because that's what we've been told. Just deal with it, which actually means you're repressing and suppressing it. Because dealing with it in the old terms is actually contracting your body and saying, okay, deal with it, just get on with it. And actually crying, and indigenous communities and different cultures around the world, they kind of encourage this because they realize crying is actually a release of this energy, right? Because sadness is just an energy. Sadness is a frequency. Grief is a frequency. It's an energy. And crying is a great mechanism to release this energy from your energetic body. And it's amazing, right? Once you've had a good cry, how much better you feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know, hey, I could talk to you for ages. I love this this is the conversation that I think we should be having. And we've gone on for 30 minutes. Forget the question. No need for the question. I think for everybody, if you're feeling any kind of blockage, if you're slightly, because I suppose not everybody's ready to hear this message sometimes.
Sure.
So if you've got to the stage where you're sort of getting there and you think, we all need guidance through it. It's very difficult, I think, or it's a longer process if you're going to try and do it by yourself. Why not have somebody take you through the process? So, thank you so much for your time today, Haider. Wonderful conversation. I'd love to have you actually on the actual show, which is a bit longer.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. And for the rest of you guys, I'll be back again with the Ask Karen. We will get round to a question to do, but that was such an interesting subject. So thank you. Bye for now.